As a continued part of the Publishing Audiobooks through Findaway Voices video series, I had the pleasure of sitting down and speaking with one of the staff members over at Findaway Voices, and she shares a little bit about hiring a voice actor or narrator for your audiobook publishing, so make sure you stay tuned to today's video. This is Self-Publishing with Dale, where you'll learn to publish books that sell and build an unstoppable author brand. And if you want to learn more about writing, publishing, and building your author platform, make sure that you subscribe, turn the bell notifications on so you don't miss a single video. I had the pleasure of visiting the Findaway Voices headquarters up in Cleveland, Ohio not too long ago, and I've interviewed a few of the staff members, including Will Dagus, Wes Ingram, Sawyer Dillard, and of course today's guest, which is Rinn Kraus. And Rinn is actually kind of like, and you'll hear this, she's the matchmaker. She's the one who matches up rights holders or authors with narrators. And it's a fairly intricate process, but she breaks it down very simply. And you're going to find out why you shouldn't be recording on your iPhone, and what are the type of narrators we can get, and also how can we get a narrator on the cheap. So with that being said, let's take it away.
So I'm our lead casting director,
Okay.
and I help with some of our more custom productions too.
Nice. And what does that entail? What is that day-to-day life for you?
Most of that is anytime somebody wants to connect with a narrator, they submit through a project to us with any sort of the casting requirements. That will come through to me. I'll generally have a look through the book, look through the summary, look through what they're requesting, and then try to match them up with the perfect narrator.
Interesting. So you get to deal with not only the rights holders, but you get to deal with the narrators too.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool because you get to know them on both sides, and there's also like a personality element. Sometimes when you are corresponding with an author, there's like just that twist, and you're like, Aaron might be good for this one. They might get along really well, in addition to being a good fit.
So you're like the matchmaker then of Findaway Voices.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Interesting.
Audio
that's
matchmaker. Audio matchmaker.
I love it. So my question is,
Yeah.
will you accept my audio footage as a narrator from my iPhone?
Probably not.
No?
You know, it's we have a lot of specs. I don't know if Wes's portion of this has gotten in yet, but if I sent through audio to Wes off of a cell phone, he might get a little cross with me.
He might end up flipping his desk.
Yeah, he might be like, no, Rinn.
Yeah. How does the Findaway Voices team vet audiobook narrators? Because I've had some doozies I've gotten for auditions in the past on other platforms. So I want to kind of know I'm not kind of getting into somebody who's using, say, their iPhone or don't really have so much good performance qualities.
So we do actually have a bit of an involved process. So when a narrator signs up with us, obviously they fill out all their information, they give us their name, and they provide us with samples. So our team will have a list of the samples. They'll go through our post-production team just to make sure that they're able to hit the specifications that we have listed on our site. And then we'll also provide them with a pretty extensive questionnaire, which goes into what languages, what accents they're good at, some performance element questions, experience, if they've won awards, that sort of thing. So we go into a pretty deep dive, and all of that information combined really helps to get an idea of the narrator. And then what's helpful with the samples is a lot of times we'll be informed that they're good with an accent. They'll provide us with a sample of that accent, and then we'll kind of have a listen to reconcile that a little bit. You know, okay, so you are actually amazing at you have an amazing Yorkshire accent. Like, okay, I'm going to cast you for anything that comes through with that type thing. So it's kind of a back and forth, taking the information they're providing us, and then we assess that internally as well, and kind of have a rather large database of that information for us to go through.
So when you go through some of these specific areas, okay, they're checking off everything on the list. Do they select the finished price per hour, or do you guys dictate that?
No, narrators are in control of their rate at all times.
Cool.
Yeah, we have a live change feature on the site, so if they change their rate, that will change across any casting list that they're currently active on that they haven't been assigned to. So that's a live change, and they can adjust that at any time. So we have found that a lot of narrators, if they're still trying to figure out where they're sitting on in that rate spectrum, they will play around with it, set it, see how it goes, and go through it that way.
Very cool. So does that mean that, let's say, for instance, someone has $300 per finished hour? Can I negotiate as a rights holder with that person to maybe bring them down to $250, or are they going to be pretty static at that $300?
They're going to be pretty static at that. When they're setting a rate on our platform, it's normally for a very specific reason. Again, they have a lot of people outsource their post-production, or they have to pay for their equipment. You know, the fact that they've taken classes and education to justify that rate. So if they've set a rate in the system, we normally don't allow a whole lot of negotiation back and forth in that way.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How do rights holders hire audiobook narrators then?
Okay, so in terms of how to listen to an audition,
So just take me through just the very basic process of how do I get that narrator in the first place?
Okay, so I mean, with our service specifically, normally what would happen is you would create a project with us, fill out our casting questionnaire, ask things like, do you have an age range? Do you have accent needs? What's the tone of your book? That sort of stuff to help us get an idea of what's going to be right for you. We'll then put together a list of narrators, generally between 6 to 10, sometimes I go higher, of names that I think would be good. You're then able to, on the site, request as many auditions as you would like. You then go through our audition feature. Some people jump straight to assignment. They just hear the voice and they're like, her, him, done. But other people want to hear a little bit of their own material. So you can request auditions. You can put your own audition text, give some information on, you know, what the tone is, if there are any kind of weird accents the narrator needs to know about. And then generally it's 5 to 7 days, we'll get all those auditions back for your review. And then you can have a listen through, and that's all your material, which can really help. And then from there, you can assign a narrator. If you still haven't heard quite what's right, you can always ask for additional options, and then we can go again from there. Once, and again, it's as easy as that. Once you think you've found the perfect narrator, you just book them on the site, and then we coordinate all of that information for you. We coordinate timing with the narrator. We coordinate all the contracts right on the site. It's super easy. You can do it right on our website now, which is a cool new feature our team launched, and yeah, it's pretty easy. It's a little, you know, involved, and it takes a little bit of time, but otherwise it's like, yeah.
As a rights holder, what is the perfect amount that I need to be putting together for a sample for an audition? Should I be sending out an entire manuscript that's the entire 12,000 words, or should I be shooting for something a little shorter, like a single page, 2 pages, 3 pages?
Yeah, so we normally recommend between 500 words to 700 words. That gives you a nice little short 3 to 5 minute audition sample. If we're not told what to do, we'll normally just go with the beginning of chapter 1 type thing. But if a lot of rights holders we've spoken to, they are really focused on specific characters or a really specific scene. So if that's the case, I would recommend you know, something with dialogue that's character specific. If you want to choose your text, or something that if there's an accent that you're concerned about. But just keeping it nice and short, because when you actually start the full production with us, the narrator will provide a 15-minute extended sample as well. So this is sort of to give you an idea of like, yes, this person's voice, I'm feeling it, I think this is perfect. And then for any sort of specific adjustments, performance style, that sort of thing, that's generally, we handle that right before the production in that full extended sample.
Can you find a good narrator without having to break the bank? And is it even worth it for an indie author?
Oh, I'll start with the second part. I think it's 100% worth it for an indie author to come into audio, because otherwise, you probably hear that a lot, but you're just leaving money on the table. Audio is so big, and I've talked to people who will listen to 2-3 books a week. So to just not go there at all seems like probably not the best choice. And you can find a lot of narrators for reasonable rates. Obviously, there's a huge range. There's a huge range of rates. There's a huge range of talent. And you know, there's going to be a handoff there between getting a narrator that's a lower rate versus a higher rate. The quality is still going to be generally pretty good, but you can tell that based on their audio samples. There's probably going to be, there might be a quality difference. There might be some restrictions on accents or performance styles, that sort of thing. But I don't think it's going to break the bank. in all cases. However, I think a good way of looking at audiobooks is as an investment either way.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be money put out, but ultimately I think it's worth that. It's not just the recording, it's the performance, there's script preparation, there's post-production elements that go into everything. So, we have launched a new service called Voices Share, which actually halves the amount of the upfront cost for an author, which makes it significantly more affordable.
Yeah.
And for narrators that opt in, sometimes you have narrators whose normal rates would be $250, $300 per finished hour, and they're accepting a halved rate for 20% of the royalties for 10 years. So that's a huge, huge opening for a lot of authors who would be otherwise a little bit concerned, I think, about making audio.
You said something, reasonable rates.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a reasonable rate for a newbie author, somebody that's brand new to, say, audiobook publishing?
It's hard to say because we've had some authors whose first book, they've come in at a SAG-AFTRA rate narrator. Other authors want to come in a little bit lower, $150 per finished hour, So there's a huge spectrum of rates that narrators function on. Generally, again, SAG-AFTRA narrators are $250 per finished hour plus.
Yeah.
But there are narrators who function across the spectrum of rates. So, and when we recommend narrators for productions with Findaway Voices, you do see those rates on their narrator profiles. So you can see, we'll generally provide you with a spectrum. So we'll recommend some narrators that would be good for your production at a lower rate, and then some narrators that would be good for your production at a higher rate, and everything in between.